What's up, everybody? I had to put my curtain behind the phone because these damn parking lot lights are glaring right in my fucking face. It's cold. I gotta warm this thing up. It's been sitting in the truck with the heat off. Ah, shit, the battery's low. Good thing I got a backup. Yeah, I started vaping. Hold on one sec. But I'm gonna make another video where I talk about that. This video, I'm talking about some other stuff. I think I'm gonna make this a just talking video. But, you know, one thing I was going to talk about is, you know, we have an account, this company does, for a factory up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Now, I can't talk about I can't talk about what it is or who it is, and I can't give a whole lot of information about that, because the company specifically doesn't want people talking about stuff like that. But just know, you know, we're a Wisconsin company, so we run a lot of Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota freight. You know, it's our area of operation. This company's a Great Lakes company. You come to work here, you're gonna be running a lot of Great Lakes freight, which is fine with me. It gets a little old going through Chicago all the time, but gotta take the good with the bad. But anyways, I ran this load up to this factory that we run loads to in the Upper Peninsula of northern Michigan, right? And, you know, for those of you who are geographically challenged, I guess, you know, if you haven't looked at a map in a while, you know, the Upper Peninsula is like disconnected from, like, I guess, like the mainland of Michigan. You know, it's like Wisconsin's hat is what I call it, you know? And it's funny because, you know, I didn't know it existed until I ran a load up there for this company. I'd never been up there before, you know? I remember when I was still company here and I started out, I got a load. I was probably going up to that factory, but I got a load going to Michigan. I said, oh, okay, so I'm going to be running east. And then I looked at the routing solution, and it had me going up north through Chicago, Milwaukee. I'm like, what kind of route is this? I had to, because I'd never been up there. You know, my old company, I hardly ever ran freight in like the Wisconsin, Michigan area. And sure enough, you know, the Upper Peninsula was there. I was like, oh, I always thought that was just Wisconsin. But the factory that we run these loads to is all the way up there. Like, when you get there, you are on the shores, or bank, shores, whatever, of Lake Superior. Like, from our drop yard up there, you could throw a rock into Lake Superior. It's like right there. And you can see Canada on the other side. Yeah. You can look over and you can see Canada. So it's way up there. Way up there in the woods. You know. And it's, you know, I went up there the other day and it was snowing. Pretty good. It was, you know, pretty snowy when I went up there, you know, and I was thinking, damn, you know, I thought it was going to be like another month before I had to deal with this kind of weather. Thank God I got all my my winter clothes out of my pickup truck a couple weeks ago. Thank God, because I need them. Hell, it's in the 20s right now outside. Come on, you little bastard. But I went up there and I dropped the load in the drop yard, grabbed an empty. It was a drop and hook load, which is great. Because I mean, I didn't have to roll up tarps in the snow and ice and all that. But After I dropped that load, they gave me another load about 80, 90 miles away in Michigan, up there in the Upper Peninsula. And that's another plant that we have an account for that we run freight out of. Different type of plant. And I go over there, and tarp the load, strap the load, get everything ready to go, get ready to get on the road, right? So, before I'm about to head out, I review my route. I'm looking at my Rand, and Rand McNally is saying, look, there's two ways you can go, right? He says you can go down the western side of Lake Superior, which is like I-41, I-43 or I-41. Can't remember which one. Whichever one comes down through Milwaukee, right? So you go that way, and then I have to go through Milwaukee and Chicago, or I could go east and then south and cross over the bridge from the UP to the MIT, the mainland Michigan, and come straight down through Michigan because I was going to Indiana. And both routes were almost the exact same length to where I was going. They were just a couple miles difference. And so I'm thinking to myself, if I take the route through Michigan, I'm going to be on some secondary highways, and I usually try to avoid that. However, I won't have to go through Milwaukee and Chicago in the morning. You know what I mean? That's a lot of traffic. Plus, I got to pay the tolls to go through Chicago, the communist state of Illinois with all their toll roads and all that stuff. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to take the scenic route. I'm going to go through Michigan. Screw it, right? And this is, the sun hadn't gone down yet. It wasn't snowing. Weather seemed like it was all right. Roads were dry for the most part anyway. So I jump out on the highway, and I'm driving. I drive for about 20 minutes, headed east down the peninsula. Right, I'm north of Lake Superior, right, or not Superior. I'm north of Lake Michigan. Was I saying Superior earlier? Well, I meant Lake Michigan. Anyways, but Lake Superior's to the north, and I was right between Superior and Michigan. But anyways, started heading east, and it starts snowing, and it starts snowing harder, and it starts snowing harder, like approaching whiteout conditions, right? And I'm driving, and the road's starting to get the road's starting to become snow covered. So, it kind of gets to that point where then I got to slow down and reduce my cruising speed. And then it kind of starts getting into that point where I've got to turn the radio off. I think I was listening to talk radio, and I had to turn it was those kind of conditions. There's certain kinds of conditions where I got to run silent with the radio off so I could really focus, And those are the kind of conditions where it's like it was starting to get real dark, and then I was thinking, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to make a judgment call here because it got to the point where I couldn't see the road anymore. And look, I've driven on snow-packed roads, and that's one thing. Roads that have maybe been salted, maybe been plowed, and where the road is. That was not the case. The roads I was going down, it got so bad, it got to the point where it hadn't been plowed, and it was snowing balls. It was lake effect snow coming off of Superior, coming straight south, right? And I couldn't, from the side of it was all white. I didn't know where the pavement started and where it ended, and where the end of. I didn't know if I was in the middle of the road. I didn't know if I was in the shoulder. I couldn't see the road, right? And it's almost, the sun's almost completely gone down. It's dark. It's snowing its ass off, and there's almost no one else on the road. I'm thinking to myself, if I continue on this route, it's probably gonna be maybe 200 miles before I get to an area where the roads are clear, not snow-packed, And I was way up there in the Upper Peninsula. There's no T-Mobile service, which is what I have. So instead, I get AT&T service. And when you have a T-Mobile phone on AT&T's network, you can make calls and text, and you have internet, but the internet is god awful slow. It's almost, it's almost where you can't use it, really, right? So, I stopped and I tried to check my radar. I just stopped. Couldn't even find anywhere to park. I just kind of stopped in the road, which is fine, because I was the only fucking guy out there. No one was driving in this shit. No one. Not even the locals. Wasn't no cars, no trucks, no nothing. It was just me. So I stopped, and I tried to look at my radar app and see what the snow was doing. Right? And the damn app wouldn't load. And I couldn't get any of my weather apps to load. I couldn't get anything to work. And I'm thinking, fuck this. Because I'm thinking, you know what? If I continue on this road, I'm going to be driving, I'm going to be doing 30, 35 miles an hour. I'm not going to know where the road is. I know the plows aren't out tonight. The plows probably won't be working on these roads. Because these are real remote roads. There's almost nothing out there. Once you get far enough east in the Upper Peninsula, there's nothing there. There's no towns. There's nothing. It just kind of becomes wilderness, like forest. Right? Until you get back, kind of start getting back down into mainland Michigan again. And I'm thinking, I'm going to be in the middle of the forest. There's probably going to be no other cars around, no plows. It's going to be dark. I can't see the road. If something goes wrong and I slide off the road or something happens, I'm going to be on my own. I probably wouldn't be able to get towed out till tomorrow. I probably wouldn't be able to get a tow truck to come out in that kind of shit until the roads are plowed. And even so, I was just the risk meter was just to the point where I was like, let me look at the map. I looked at my GPS, and I'm looking at the highways, and I'm facing south, and I'm at a crossroads to where if I turn left, that takes me east down the peninsula, or I can continue south and it'll take me right back to US 41 to head back south to stay on the west side of Lake Michigan and come down the western side through Wisconsin. So I said, and I'd only gone like 20 minutes, which was really like 10. It took me just 10 miles. It took me 20 minutes to do 10 miles. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fuck that. I was gonna take the scenic route, but I did not see that kind of weather coming. I didn't know that's what was gonna happen. It was snowing its ass off. Like borderline whiteout conditions. It was pretty bad. So I just started going south, and I just went, and I got back on 41. And even that first 100 miles before I started getting further south was just, the roads were still pretty snow-packed, and it was to the point where, you could do a decent speed down the highway because you could see the road, and there were tracks on the road and stuff like that, but there was so much loose snow that, if there was another truck, like I was behind another truck for a while, it was kicking up so much fresh powder that it was just, I couldn't see shit. I couldn't see like more than 5 feet in front of my truck. It was just the headlight beams just in white and snow. You couldn't see anything. So at that point, I had to slow it way down, because you don't know if there's another vehicle. You can't see if the road's gonna curve. You can't, you gotta slow it way down. And the people behind me, they slowed way the hell down because I was kicking up so much powder too, until I got into an area where the snow was a little more well packed, and we got our visibility back. Then we were able to pick up speed again. But I know that's probably not a very exciting story, but I don't know. It's just at the time it started. It kind of like I started out like, all right, I've never taken that route, I don't think. If I have, it's been a long time. And the last time I really went down the peninsula like that, I was going into Canada. I didn't come back down through Michigan. So I was like, this is going to be, I like northern Michigan, mainland northern Michigan. It's really pretty. I like the forests and the trees and all that stuff. Northern Michigan's cool as shit. But like as every minute ticked off the clock, I was starting to lose more and more confidence in the route that I had chosen, because the weather conditions deteriorated before my very eyes. Like I'm talking, this is a 20-minute span from the sun's, it's kind of overcast, like, mostly cloudy, but there's still some sunlight. Roads are dry, it's not snowing. 20 minutes later, it's dark. and it's snowing its ass off. I can't see the fucking road. You know, within that 20 minutes, it's like I started asking myself in those last 5 minutes, like, is there anywhere I could turn around to go back the other way? Like, it's not too late. I was saying it's not too late to go turn back, bud. You know what I mean? Because I needed to make some progress. You know, I needed to get a ways down the road there. But that's what I did. You know, luckily, you know, I stopped when I did at that crossroads before I turned east, because if I had turned east, God knows because once you get out into the forest on the 2-lane road, there you ain't making no U-turns, homes. Hell no. And there's sure as hell I know where to see. When it snows like that, you can't see anything. Even if you get into like a small town, you know, that's got some parking lots and stuff like that, you can't see where ditches are and curbs and those little bumps they put in the parking lots. You can't see any of that shit. You don't know what's there. So you think, oh, I'll jump in this church parking lot and spin around. You know, you don't know if you're driving through grass. You know, you don't know if you're gonna be driving over concrete and curbs and ditches. Ditches is the worst, especially when the snow gets high enough. You don't know where the ditches are, so it starts getting real sketchy. You know, and you're like, where can I turn around? And sometimes you got to be careful depending on what kind of weather you're driving in. When you got a spread axle and you're loaded, because you'll go into a parking lot that's slippery, and even if you're trying to spin around, turn around and go back out and, you know, do something like that, you know, if it's slippery enough, like your tandem axles, sometimes if they dig into the snow, they'll dig in and your drive wheels will start to slip. I've had that happen to me before. And this will happen in mud too. If you try to jack this trailer around too much, those tires won't rotate. They'll dig in and they'll catch, and then your drive tires will just, you know, and if you fuck up, you know, and I've done this before to where either underneath the snow there's ice, so you could just get stuck where you are, to where like the ground's so slippery your tires will just spin and you can't climb out of the snow. And then this happened to me in just a couple of inches of snow. It's like 3-4 inches of snow, and I got stuck, you know, trying to turn around in a parking lot. But so you gotta be able to make those decisions. But I don't know. You know, at the time it was starting to get pretty freaky. I mean, it went, you know, things deteriorated quickly. But that was one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing I was going to talk about was, you know, and, you know, I should probably turn this into like its own little video, but I don't know, maybe I'll put something about it at the title. But, you know, this is for if, you know, if you're a lease operator or maybe an owner operator, but, you know, especially if you're someone who's company or someone who's considering leasing a truck or whatever, you know, here's a little bit of food for thought for you. You know, the holidays are coming up, and right now I'm in the process of saving as much money as sorry, I thought I turned that auto zoom off, but right now I'm in the process of saving up as much money as possible for the holidays, you know, because there's something to keep in mind is every time I go home, which I usually go home for 5 to 7 days at a time, every single time I go home, it takes me, once I go back on the road, it takes me 3 full weeks to get back to making the good money again. You know, because after you spend that week home, I mean, it's all about pay periods and you know, your overhead and stuff like that. Once you take it, like I take that 5 days off, that basically I get the check I get that week is like next to nothing, because I'll maybe get 1 load turned in, and all that gets eaten up by overhead and fuel and all that shit, all that. So like the first week you come back on the road, you're in the negative because you were off last week. And then the next week after that, even if you run a good week, your check is small as shit because you're coming out of the hole. You know, so you may have a $500 check or a $300 check. And then that third week is when you actually get a good paycheck again. So that's 3 weeks, back to back to back, to where you're making either no money or hardly any money until that third Thursday. You get that settlement on that third week, to where your pay's gone back up because you're coming out of the hole and all that stuff. So for instance, like, I'm gonna take off 5 or 6 days for Thanksgiving. You visit my dad in Memphis and all that, and after that, I'll go back on the road. About 3 weeks later, then I'll be taking off for Christmas. So I'm not gonna make hardly any money in that first 3 weeks. I might have one good check at the very end, probably, but then I'm gonna be taking off for Christmas, and after that, it's gonna take me 3 more weeks to come back from that. You know what I mean? So it's like a 6-week period of making little to no money, because your overhead is just steady coming out. Your fuel costs will drop off to nothing, right? But you still got your base overhead that comes out. And then not to mention, this is why you've got to stack. This is something to consider, especially for anybody who's thinking, I want to go lease, but I'm still going to go home all the time and shit. No, dude. Even if you're like, no, I'm just going to take a weekend off every so often. Weekend is when you make your best money. Your best loads are typically over a weekend. I like to, if possible, I like to have weekend loads that are over $1,000. That takes care of my fuel for the week. That takes care of my fuel costs, which is usually hovers around $1,000 or so. It's probably around $1,100-1,200 now that fuel's gone up. But my point is, when you get those 1,200 and 1,400 and 1,800 loads over the weekend, you come out swinging on Monday to where you're already $1,200 ahead, because you got to keep this in mind. You've got to make, my typical overhead is about $2,100-2,200. So I've got to make $2,200 before I can make a dime of profit that goes to myself, right? So when you come out on Monday, deliver that load early Monday morning, and it's like a $1,200 load or whatever, you're $1,200, in. All you got to do is pick up another $1,000, which you can do in the next 1 or 2 days, and then you're good. You're gonna, you'll make money that week. But if you took that weekend off and you foregoed? Is that the? You forego that $1,200 load, you're behind. You're not going to make any money that week. You may make a couple $100, because if the truck makes $2,500 that week, because you didn't get that $1,200 weekend load, you're only going to make like $400, because $2,100 of that's going to go into overhead, fuel and stuff like that. Maybe it won't be so high because you didn't run over the weekend, so you didn't burn quite as much fuel, but still $400, and then you got to put $100 in the tax savings account. You only made $300. So it's something to keep in mind, So it's not just that. It's not just having enough money to pay your bills and still be able to buy groceries and stuff when you get back on the road. You got to have money set aside for when you go home. So you can eat out and pay for things and stuff like that. Well, you don't want to go home and just be broke. Oh, I saved up enough money to cover me when I go back on the road, but I didn't save up any money to spend on Chipotle and Chick-fil-A and going out to bars and stuff when I was home, or whatever. Or you I'll put aside $1,000, and you spend $500 of it while you're home or whatever, and you go back on the road, and then you got bills to pay, and then you got a negative check, and then you're going to be asking for cash advances from the company, which I don't even know if you could do that if you're leased. I never done it. Not here anyway, not at this company. I haven't got a cash advance in a long time. You really shouldn't. You shouldn't need one, but you got to manage that shit. And so I've got a couple $1,000 stashed away for the holiday season, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I'm trying to stack every dime that I possibly can, because I know that it's going to be, basically a month and a half of being short on money. So I'm trying to stack up as much as I can. I got to buy Christmas gifts still. Christmas gifts, plus the money I'm going to spend on both of my home times, Thanksgiving and Christmas. You know, and now I got hit with a curveball today. Mom sent me a text and said, hey, just so you know, you've been summoned for jury duty. I'm like, damn it. What's the date? And she says, well, it's December 7th. So I'm going to take off for Thanksgiving, go back on the road for like a week and a half, and then I got to be back in Houston for fucking jury duty. You know, and that's not necessarily the end of the world, because I typically make money going into Texas, and I typically do okay coming out. But regardless, anytime the company has to get you somewhere, route you somewhere specifically, there's a good chance that especially if you have to be there at a certain time, like a doctor's appointment or whatever the fuck, you're probably gonna have to eat shit on a load, because it's gonna get you home. Like, hey, this load pays $1.02 a mile, which fucking blows, but it's gonna get you home on time, you know. And then when you come back on the road, hey, here's $1.10 a load. It's all we could find you, but it'll get you back into the lanes where, you know, we can get you a better load. You know, that's why my vacation days, it's like I'm fluid with my vacation days. I'm like, I'd like to be home on this day, but it's not the end of the world if I can't. You know, that way, if they're like, hey, here's a really shitty load that'll get you half the way, and then we'll have to find you something out of Oklahoma to get you all the way to Texas. I'm like, no. Hold off and look for something else that gets me all the way there. You know, if you don't find it today, get it to me tomorrow, whatever. I don't know. But, you know, now I'll go back, you know, I got to go back down to Houston, which means I may have to eat shit on a terrible load getting back down there. And hopefully, which I think will happen and which I hope will happen, is I'll go down there, get there on the 6th, spend the night, and go downtown, and hopefully I'll get dismissed. This would be the second time I've been summoned. Last time I got dismissed, I was only there for a couple hours. But if I don't get dismissed, then I gotta go through juror selection. And I don't know how any of that shit works. I kind of do, but I don't know how the process works. I don't know if it's like, okay, you've been selected for this trial, you know, show up. The juror selection is next week, or it's tomorrow. You know, and then I gotta go through juror selection. I get interviewed. You know, and then after that, you know, I may get. What if they want to select me for a trial? God knows how long that could take. What if that takes a week? What if I gotta sit on a jury panel for a fucking week? And everybody says the same thing. And my buddies have been telling me, dude, just tell them you're a racist. Okay. Yeah, I hate black people. Yeah, I'd be a terrible juror. You know? Like, I mean, maybe, do people do that? Do people really go in? Oh, no, you don't want me as a juror. I'm a racist. You know? I don't know, dude. You know, and one of my friends is like, dude, it's not a big deal. You don't have to show up. I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know what happens if I don't show up, but I don't think it's like they just let it go. Because I think if it was like that, no one would show up for jury duty. You know? And then my other buddy I was talking to, he's like, well, dude, tell him you're going to be out of the state. I'm like, yeah, but on the form it specifically says business reasons are not a lawful excuse to not show up. You know, and I figure if they put that in there in black and white and bold in its own little area, that it's important, you know. I don't know what happened if I don't show up, but you know, like I said, knowing the state of Texas, I don't show up, they'll block the renewal of my driver's license or something, or my car registration. That's what they do now. When you screw up with stuff like that, they just won't let you renew your license until you either go to court or you pay a big-ass fine, you know. That's how they get people now. So, you know, financially, I've got to account for that too. You know, it's so like I guess the moral of the story is you really need to have some money stacked, some money saved up. You can have an automatic transfer into a savings account, which is what I do, or you could set something up if you want something that's even more automatic. You can set up a general escrow with the company. And you can have like a certain amount come out a week, or you could have like 2 cents per mile come out. This is what some guys do to save up money to go home. They set up a general account to where it takes like 2 cents a mile or 4 cents a mile, and so it's automatic. They don't even see it. It just builds up in this account, and you could use that general escrow for whatever. You can use it for emergency repairs, tows, whatever, roadside. You can use it to go home, whatever you want. Just know that if you put your money in a general escrow, it's that money is in the company's custody, which means, you know, by clause of contract, they, you know, have legal right to that money for certain reasons. That's something to keep in mind. You know, if you screw up or something happens or whatever, you know, if they need money for whatever reason to repair the truck after you've turned it in, or you owe money to the company, you know, or if there's damage to the truck that's not covered by the escrows you already have, they can dip into whatever other escrows you have to compensate. You know, that's in the contract. So I just bypass all that, and I have my own savings account, which you should have anyway, you know. But these are just things, I'm just talking. These are some things to keep in mind if you're, you know, looking into leasing, or maybe you're just started leasing. You know, it's just food for thought. These are things you need to look forward to, you know, because that truck payment does not stop coming out on Thanksgiving or Christmas. It keeps coming, you know, and you got to, you know, remember that it takes about 3 weeks of running to get back, you know, in the green again, to start getting a $1,800 check or whatever. Because until then, you're going to have a negative check and a short check, and then you'll have a good check. And that's a 3-week period. So in that meantime, you still got bills. You still got groceries you got to buy, food and stuff like that. You still got to stay afloat until you've done that 3-week period. And it gets worse in the holidays. But that's it right now. This video is at its end anyway. I've run out of time, so just some stuff I want to talk about. I'll holler at you guys later.